Hi guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to make this snake, and you're going to need a total of 81 bands to make him exactly like this one. 42 blacks, 18 whites, 16 other gray bands, which I used rainbow colors, and 5 reds, 2 for the eyes and 1 for the mouth and 1 for the body. You will also need a pipe cleaner to put inside your snake, and I cut a pipe cleaner 4 inches long to make the snake, and the snake is about 5 inches long. And since it's on the pipe cleaner, we can actually wrap it around our pencil and he'll cling to it like this. We will be making him completely on the finger loom, and you can make it on any loom as long as you're using 4 pegs. So let's get started. Let's make the eyes. I'm making it red, taking a single band, twist, double it, and we'll loop it from 1 peg, twist in the center, and looping it across to the other peg, like that. Push it down, taking a single band, the color of your snake's head, and loop it on the same 2 pegs. Now we're going to pull the bottom 2 bands up and over to the center, my finger's slippery, and looping the other side up and over to the center. And let's take our eye off the loom and be careful not to let it come off. Set it aside, and let's make the other eye. Same thing, taking a single band, twist, double, and looping it from 1 peg, cross in the center to the other peg. Push it down, taking a single band, the color of our snake's head, and looping it on the same 2 pegs as the eye band, and now pulling the bottom 2 loops up and over to the center for both sides, like that. And let's take it off our loom very carefully and set it aside to add to our body later. Now let's make our snake, taking a single band. We're starting with the tail, twist, double, and my snake will be mostly black, and we're going to loop it from 1 peg, twist in the center to the other peg like we did our eye. So that's what it should look like. Taking a single band, twist, double, and we're going to loop it straight on the same 2 pegs, like that, and make sure it doesn't overlap. And now we're going to pull the bottom 2 loops up and over to the center, leaving 2 loops left per peg. So at this point it looks like our eye. Let's continue on, taking 2 single bands, and we're going to loop it around all 4 pegs. So that's what yours should look like. Now we're going to pull the bottom 2 bands on these 2 pegs up and over to the center. So go and pull those 2 loops up and over to the center, and we're left with 2 loops left per peg. So that's what yours should look like, and we pushed it down. Our next set, we're working now with always 2 single bands and looping it on all 4 pegs. And you can make this snake on any loom that you want. You only need 4 pegs, and we're just going around, grabbing the bottom 2 loops and pulling it up and over to the center. And we always want to have 2 loops left on each peg. Push it down. Our next set of bands, same thing. You can use whatever color you want. My snake will mostly be black, so I'm taking 2 single black bands, looping it around the 4 pegs, and then pulling the bottom 2 bands up and over to the center. And be careful it doesn't come off the loom. Push it down after each one, and just continue on to your next color Remember to always grab 2 single bands and looping it around the 4 pegs and then pulling the bottom 2 loops up and over to the center, leaving 2 loops left per peg. And you're just going to continue this for however many bands you want, for however long you want your snake to be, and in whatever color pattern you want. So going around, grabbing the bottom 2 bands, looping up and over, leaving the 2 loops left per peg. Don't pull the bottom bands yet in the center here, because we want to add our pipe cleaner inside once it gets a little longer. So I'm going to continue with my next color, and I'm making my snake rainbowish. Going around, grabbing the bottom 2 loops up and over to the center, pushing down on every row. My next color. So I'm seeing that it's sticking out a little bit. We can stick our pipe cleaner down in the center of our snake and pull it out a tiny bit to grab our pipe cleaner. So there's our tail, and just continue on with your pattern. Mine is black, so once you have the pipe cleaner on, stretch your bands and get the pipe cleaner in between, and then looping the bands once again on all 4 pegs as we did before, and then just pulling the bottom 2 bands up and over to the center, leaving 2 loops left per peg. Push it down and continue with 2 single bands, making sure we put the pipe cleaner in the middle and looping our 2 bands around our 4 pegs, and then looping the bottom 2 bands up and over to the center, leaving 2 loops left per peg. And I'm going to continue till I get to the top of my pipe cleaner. I just looped my last 2 bands on and then pulled the bottom 2 bands up and over to the center. So here we are. Now I'm ready to do the head. I'm taking a single band, twist, double it, and we're going to loop it from one peg to the other diagonally, and we'll do that 4 times or 3 more times. Single, twist, double, looping it on the next peg over to the other one. My 3rd band, single, twist, double, looping it on the next 2 pegs, and my last single, twist, double will cover from this peg to that one. So now you should have a total of 6 loops per peg, 2 at the very bottom and 4 up top. And from the top view, that's what it looked like. It should look like a clover leaf. And now we're going to pull the bottom 2 bands up and over to the center for all 4 pegs. And try to keep our pipe cleaner in the center. We can pull it down and push back up in the center of our creation there. So that's one part of our head. Push all those loops down, and you should have 4 loops left on each peg. Taking our eyes now, we're going to add it from one peg, and the eyes should be wedged in the little corner, and looping it onto the other one, like that. And let's do our other eye. We'll loop it on the opposite side of our loom, putting it on one peg, and push our eye in this corner in between, and then looping the other side onto the peg next to it. And now with 2 single bands, we're going to cover the spaces from this peg to that peg, and this peg to that peg. So we have a total of 4 bands for the eye row, and you should have 4 loops on the bottom and 2 loops up on top for a total of 6 loops. Now we're going to pull the bottom 4 loops up and over to the center. Make sure you hold your bands down. It's pretty tight. And you should have 2 loops left per peg. And if you have a hook, I know you're supposed to just use your finger, but if you have a hook, just go ahead and use your hook and pull it up and over to the center, leaving 2 loops left per peg. Go around all 4 pegs, looping all the bands up and over except for the 2 that we just looped on for our eyes. Push it down. So that's what yours should look like, with 2 loops left on each peg. We're almost done our last 4 bands before we put on our tongue. We're just going to loop it from peg to peg diagonally around our loom, creating our clover leaf. So that's what yours should look like. You should have 4 loops on each peg, and we're going to loop the bottom 2 up and over to the center, leaving 2 loops left per peg. Pull our snake down, and that also hides or cover our pipe cleaner. And now for the tongue, I'm using a red band, so I'm looping it from one peg to the other. It doesn't matter which one, it's just as long as you loop it straight like that. And now we're going to pull the bands, or the 2 loops underneath the red band, up and over to the center and onto that single red band. So that's what yours should look like. And now we're going to pull the red bands off of these 2 pegs and move it on top of these 2 pegs that have the 2 black bands on it. So very carefully getting a loop off, and pivot over to the peg next to it that has the 2 black bands. Repeat on the other side, grabbing the loop and pulling it onto the peg that has the 2 black bands. Now once again, we're going to pull the bottom 2 bands up and over, and make sure you hold or pull your snake down so it doesn't come off the loom. So holding your snake, pulling the bottom 2 bands up and over, and now all your bands are all on the tongue band, the red band. So that's what yours should look like, and we're almost done. We're going to tie a slip knot. We're going to pull a single band, the red band, off of one peg and loop it onto the other peg that has the red band, and the one that we just pulled off, we're going to pull it over and all the way under past the band that's already there. Now we're going to grab that band that's already on this peg, and it should create a slip knot for you. Pull your snake off your loom and tighten your slip knot band. Make sure you fix any loose bands. Pull out your snake and position it to how you want. If your eyes aren't right, then go ahead and pull it out and fix it to the way you like it. And because this snake has a pipe cleaner inside, you can position and maneuver him how you want. So there's our snake. I hope you like it. Thanks for watching.